Do you have a brilliant startup idea but are stuck in the launching phase? Are you feeling overwhelmed by funding, marketing, or just where to start? Don't let your startup idea stay grounded. Visit our website at eapla.com to schedule a Blue Couch meeting and launch your startup journey today.
Welcome back to On The Cusp. I've got Matt Snyder back for another
Thank you, Dave.
Another episode here. I think we're at 104 episodes.
Who would have thought?
And I'm excited to have Mr. George Fritze with Red River Chevrolet here with us today. And there's two things. There's two things you ought to know about George and I. We're both Kappa Sigs, and we both married girls from Plain Dealing.
That's true.
So we don't have a lot to say what goes on in our households.
Amen.
So
this show has been interesting since we started it. We've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that have just started things, that are fighting the fight of trying to build something in Shreveport. But it's just as important to talk to people that have been running business in our area for a long time. So I was really excited about you coming on, Mr. Fritze. And can you just talk about being on that corner in Bossier for all these years?
Well, Red River Motor Company has been at 221 Traffic Street since it started in 1931, but actually that building was built in 1922 as a Ford dealership, and it was called the Bossier Motor Company. And the two guys that built it were not related to my family at all, but they happened to pick a really great location. It's where you came across the river from downtown Shreveport, Lake Street, right behind the Holiday Inn now, connected across the river. It was the old Traffic Street Bridge, they called it, and it emptied right outside our front door, and that was cool. the gateway to Bossier. It was an old bridge, and I remember as a child riding in a car across the river, and it was very narrow and scary.
I never knew that.
And when they built the interstate in the 60s and later destroyed the old bridge, it was so nice to have this wide concrete bridge that you could come across. And once again, the off-ramp dumped right into the same location where the old bridge had been.
Knowing the right people.
So that location has been key for us. And we've always thought that having three things in business, a good location, a good product, and good people is what you needed. And we thought that was a good location. And it served us well over the years.
I mean, you didn't do the auto mall thing. You stayed right there. Everybody else was going, and going to an auto mall, and you stayed consistent. And now there's traffic there on Traffic Street.
That's right.
Your area has had a huge resurgence.
It has.
Can you talk about just like how that happened? You know,
for years, the riverbank in Bossier, it was nasty. They had farms down there. They had a lot of scrub brush, bad people living down there.
Yeah.
There were a red light district. There was places you'd go get beat up or whatever. And they built the boardwalk and they built the casinos, and that cleaned up the riverbanks, and all of a sudden we're in the middle of high-rise hotels and riverboat casinos, and that happened in around 91. And since we started, I said that my family wasn't there in 22, but in 26, my great-grandfather bought the dealership, and that year they started selling Chevrolets with Fords.
Wow.
So we had Chevy and
get away
Ford
with that now.
From 26 to 31, still named Bossier Motor Company. So my family has been selling Chevrolets in our current building since 1926. Next year will be 100 years, but there's been a dealership there since 22. But it has only been Red River since 1931. When we dropped Ford and kept Chevrolet, and my grandfather took over then,
You know, I'm a marketing guy, so that's great. You can celebrate 100 years 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying to decide when should we actually celebrate 100. We skipped the 22 one, but we're thinking next year should be 100, but it's not as Red River.
Right.
And then Chevrolet says, no, we're not going to celebrate 100 years until you personally have been there 100 years. Well, I don't know that I'm going to make that.
Oh, wow. But it is a true family-owned business.
Yeah,
I think your son is working there with you now.
Yes, and my son-in-law, Pat and Fritze, my son, and my son-in-law, Alvin Olson, are both partners with me in the dealership now.
So you're keeping it going. You might be the longest continuously running family-owned business
in our area.
I think
has a lot of that.
Dixon Drug is probably older. But.
So talk about the importance for our community having these long-rooted family businesses that exist here. I mean, I think we're dependent on that more than some other communities. Is that for the good or is that for the bad? Or
well, I hope it's for the good. We think that it's, you know, a community that we love and we've been part of for all our lives, and we want to give back. And so we've been involved in a lot of different causes. And
is that staying? Do you see that as being passed down to the next generations, not just in your family, but in the other families? Is that going well? Do you feel hopeful about our community in the long run?
I do, and I see people like you and your group with Grant Knuckles and so forth that are reinvesting and bringing youth to current old businesses, and I think that's great. And at the same time, we've got new businesses coming that are wonderful too. This entrepreneurial accelerator program has been fun to watch and be a part of, and it's amazing what all is happening now.
So let's talk about who's living here and do things. You have an interesting outlook because you're selling cars to people, and you've been selling cars and trucks to people in that location for your whole life, basically.
That's true.
So what does the customer look like today? Is that changed? Is it different? Who are you selling cars to?
Kind of an interesting story along those lines. We used to sell trucks to carpenters and plumbers and painters on a rainy day. Because it was the first rainy day in a long time, they'd come in and buy a truck because that was the first day off they had.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't see that as much. And Chevrolet has always been known as one of the more affordable new car options. When I was at LSU, I went to a Mercedes lot in Baton Rouge, and at that time you could buy the most expensive Chevrolet, whether it was a Caprice Classic or a Corvette, for less than $6,500. And there was a Mercedes there that was $10,000. This is in the mid-'70s, and I can remember saying, you know, nobody would ever pay $10,000 for a Chevrolet. And last year or so, we sold the first one for over $100,000, and we recently have a vehicle on order that is $250,000 for a new Chevrolet. And at the same time, you can get a new Chevy Trax for about $21,000.
Wow.
But I'm a little higher than my $10,000 they'd never pay.
Yeah, you thought you'd never see that.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
But yeah, the finance terms have changed. Back when they started, they didn't finance more than 12 months. And now, I talked to a man last week, he didn't finance through us, but he bought a truck from us that he financed for 8 years, 96 months on a new truck. And that's longer than I'd ever heard before.
Yeah.
I thought 6 years was long.
Actually, you've seen the transformation of how people shop for vehicles now. You know, you used to, I can remember the first car I bought, okay, I went in, I had to kick the tires.
That's right.
That's not the way it works anymore.
No. Years ago, the average, you'd go and shop probably 3 to 5 dealerships, kick the tires, see what was available, look at the brochures, see what cars they had on the lot, what they had coming, what is yours worth, and it would take a lot of time in the dealership to do that. Now most of that research is done online, And so almost everybody is online way before they come to see us in person. And so instead of 3 to 5 dealerships, it's about 1.5 or 1.25 dealerships.
They're shopping 100 dealerships
the whole
that
world.
Computer. Yes.
Yeah, and then they say, now I think I want that car, and they may call before they come in, they may send a lead on the computer, or they may just show up.
So has that been a good change? I mean, that had to be a difficult transition.
It's still in process. You can actually buy a car online and have it delivered to you. That's a rarity. Most of the research is done online, and then at some point, people want to drive the car.
Right.
They want to smell it. They want to feel it and see, how do I actually fit in here? How does it work and sound and smell? And does it accelerate like I want it to? And so they'll come in and drive it and try it on. And that's hard to do online. And so that part brings them in. The weirdest thing that happened during COVID, we didn't have the inventory, and people who were long-term customers of ours, families that had generation after generation had bought cars from us, but they wanted a particular model with particular options, and we didn't have it. Or we had one that somebody wanted from another market, and they would go online and find one or somebody that had it somewhere. They drive to Oklahoma to buy that particular vehicle. And so they came back to our market. They still come to us for service, but they didn't buy it from us. Or the people that came from another market to buy our car, they're never coming back to us for service. And we like the cycle of business where you buy a car from us and when you service with us and we take good care of you. And if we do that, we earn your respect and trust to come back and do it again.
So does that change the customer service element?
That has, but we think that is finally kind of working back to the old approach where we'll be able to get the vehicles that you want locally and have them to where you can buy those. So.
Does that happen a lot where somebody goes out and say, hey, there's a dealership in Oklahoma that's got the vehicle I want? You then go and get that vehicle or swap it?
We do dealer trades, yes, but during COVID, that kind of stopped. And if you had one, you wanted to sell it. So you didn't give it to another dealer to sell. And it really upset the apple cart. But we're getting back. We are doing dealer trades, and our factory is able to build the vehicles the way we are wanting to order them more. They still have restrictions. You can't get this option or that.
I want to ask you about something that we don't talk about a lot on here. I feel like it's kind of like an elephant in the room thing, and that's the casinos. And you were in a spot where, like you just talked about, the riverfront had to be a drastic change when Horseshoe was built right next to you. Live coming into an old abandoned space, a lot of money being put in.
That wasn't an old abandoned space. That was a new casino old abandoned space.
Yeah. So what is the effect of that? I mean, you're right in the middle of it. Is it a good effect? Is it a bad effect? I mean...
Well, it's a mixed bag. Well, one of the good effect is it's bringing people into our community, into our neighborhood that are driving by and seeing, there's Red River Chevrolet.
Right.
And there's some cars, and I like that one right there. I'm going to go ask about it. And so that's a good thing. To the extent that people are losing their life savings and going destitute because of gambling, that's a bad thing. But to the extent that it's employing thousands of people to sell them food and beverage and to work in the casinos and entertain them, that's a great thing.
And it keeps Shreveport on, like Dallas people in particular, when I've talked to Dallas people, we're on their radar for good or bad because of the casinos a lot.
That Texas money is coming here.
And I have people ask me, have you ever had anybody that won a jackpot and came and bought a car? Yes, we have. And the first one I can remember, the guy came in and he said, I won a big jackpot last night, I want to buy a car. And how much did you win? $2,000. and he bought a used car and he was excited. And then several years ago on a Saturday morning, a guy came in, he's looking around and He said, I won some money last night at the casino. You know, I want to buy a Corvette. Okay. And he left, and a little while later, the horseshoe truck came back, and the armed guards bring in sacks of money, and he paid cash for an $80,000 Corvette. So we've done that. And, you know, we've had people that had to sell their car to go back to Dallas, and others that have been able to buy brand new vehicles, and it's been wonderful.
Oh, that is a great story. That is a great story.
Who, your great-grandfather would have never thought that corner would be what that corner is today. What about the East Bank changes? I mean, do you feel that? Do you go to lunch down? I mean, like, what has that changed?
It smells a lot better. At lunchtime, you can smell, right now it's crawfish season, and so when walking around the lot, you can smell where Bojack's is boiling crawfish, and it smells pretty good.
I like that.
And then we've got the Mexican restaurant, and L'Italiano, and the pizza place, and two or three breweries that have spots there, and they're attracting a lot of customers.
Does that help you with staffing? Do you feel, does having a better area around you help you recruit talent?
I have not ever thought of it that way, but it probably does. Yeah, we've got places for them to go if they want to go have lunch. But at the same time, they don't have a whole lot of parking, and we've got a lot of land, and that has been a little bit of an issue. We've tried to be good neighbors, and they've been parking all over our lots, and had folks tell me for years, you need to charge for parking. I said, well, I'm trying not to run the customers off from the East Bank, but we recently did start, we leased out our lots to a parking company that is collecting for parking now. And that kind of gave us a little bit of a black eye when some folks were used to parking for free, and now they're not. But we had a lot of damage to our cars and our customers' cars.
You're taking a little bit of risk right there.
We're taking a lot of risk and a lot of damage.
Right.
We were getting $10,000 worth of damage a month to our cars and our customers' cars where other people banged into them, or not to mention, I don't know why, but when people park in a parking lot and they get back in their car, for some reason they feel like they need to dump all their garbage out in the parking lot as they drive off. And I don't do that.
Yeah, I don't do that.
You don't do that, but a lot of people do, and I don't know why. But so we had constant garbage detail to pick up people's trash that parked for free in our parking lot, and they parked all over our grass too, and rutted up that. So we're happy to have them park in the parking lot if we're not using it. So it's a mutual deal that we think will work. But in the meantime,
you'll make do.
Yeah, and there's plenty of on-street parking that's free from the city, and the city has parking lots that they've built. And if people want to park for free, they can use those. And if they want to park on our lot, they're welcome to if we're not using it. So
we ask this a lot to business people. Our area, if we want to attract more business people, more opportunities, what are our strengths? What are things we can get better at from your perspective?
Well, you're talking about our community. What are our strengths? That we are located in such a great location. We've got a river, we've got an airport, we've got interstate highways, we've got rail. We are protected by 200 or 300 miles from the Gulf. If a hurricane comes in, we actually 2 years ago had a hurricane that hit Shreveport-Bossier for the first time ever. It was still a named storm when it got here.
Wow.
But you think about that, and people in Oklahoma and Texas, they have multiple tornadoes all the time and much worse hailstorms than we have. We have some of that, but we got Barksdale Air Force Base, and we've got the bubble.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're right in that bubble.
And so we've got a port, and we've got the Cyber Innovation Center, we've got Barksdale, we've got this huge medical complex. We've got a lot of smart people here
Thank you.
And y'all are doing a lot of neat things to bring businesses here. We've got the chambers of commerce, the folks that want to be here and that are doing the right things. I'm excited to be a member of the Shreveport-Bossier community. I live in Shreveport. I spend all my working days in Bossier City.
You cover both sides.
Yeah, you
better than
do.
anybody.
I mean, that bridge is a connector. It's not a divider for me.
That's right.
When I was in high school, the Shreveport kids were not welcome in Bossier and vice versa. You know, it was a big no-no. We did not want to cross the.
So how does Shreveport and Bossier work together better?
Well, they've done a lot of things together. I was proud. Years ago, Mayor DeMint asked me to be on a task force to help with Barksdale. The Military Affairs Committee at the Bossier Chamber of Commerce would call on Barksdale, and so did the Military Affairs Committee of the Shreveport Chamber of Commerce. And the folks at Barksdale, you know, they're here for 3 or 4 years and leave, and they've got all these people from the community that are wanting to help them and be nice to them.
Right.
But they don't know who to talk to because there's so many different groups. So we formed the Military Affairs Council that combined both chambers. And that was the first thing like that happened. And I think that makes sense. But in the meantime, guess what? Both chambers now have Military Affairs Department again.
Yeah,
in addition to
you
the
never get
Military
those
Affairs.
chambers to play too nice.
So yeah, that's been kind of fun. But but look, we've got the Thunderbirds coming to town next week.
Yeah.
The big air show
Big air
next
show.
week.
It's going to be huge.
It is.
We've got Mardi Gras. We've got festivals.
Yeah.
Festival Plaza. There's lots.
There's something to do in Shreveport-Bossier on any given weekend.
And you can go fishing or hunting or whatever. We're in a great spot.
Well, George, thank you very much for being here. This has been great. And,
My pleasure.
all right. Well, thank you. And that's a wrap.
Thanks, Josh.
Enjoy the podcast? We would love your feedback about today's show and who you think should be our next guest. Send us an email at info@eapla.com. Also, be sure to share the show and leave a comment on our social media post.